Welcome back to Autonomy Conversations. Today, our guest is Mark Passio. Many of you know Mark through his work, but his podcast has been on hiatus for the past couple months. So we wanted to check in with him, and he's also got some new projects percolating, and maybe we'll hear a little bit about those today. But also today was a planned discussion of the behind the scenes, the things you guys don't see going on. If you're a fan of Passio's work, you see the Sunday broadcast, you see all this emphasis on truth, but there's a lot of technical minutia that has to be lined up each week to get the newsletter and to get the show out and to maintain continuity. And then if you've got a new project and you're trying to do those two things at once, it can get quite cumbersome. So Mark, welcome to this impromptu conversation about behind the scenes of your production and some of the bottlenecks and things that you've evolved through lately, and to kind of update your audience on where your work's at. How you doing?
Richard, I'm doing pretty good. I hope you guys are too. Richard, Tyler, Joshua, thank you for having me and having this discussion. Working with Autonomy has been a great experience so far. I think it's a great group of people, and people who get involved with it will definitely learn a lot and take those experiences with them further in life and whatever projects and endeavors they get involved in. And, as Richard said, I've been on hiatus for a little bit for mainly, truly, to be honest, personal and health reasons. Not that there's anything, physically wrong. I've been really taking it for an emotional break, and a lot of vitriol was really building up in me regarding this whole nonsense of this pandemic, alleged pandemic, especially in this area. Like, it's difficult for people to understand if they don't live around here in the really taken, what I call a taken city. Philadelphia is a taken city. It's taken by the enemies of humanity. And I don't say those words lightly. What is happening here, as in other places like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Atlanta and other stronghold cities that have been literally taken. This is a breeding grounds for ideologies that are literally treasonous to humanity. I'm not even talking about the word treason in reference to a country, a nation, a government. I could care less about those things, to be honest. There's a treasonous mindset to human beings happening in cities such as I just mentioned in the United States. And it's a very sad, depressing, and energy sapping thing when you really realize it. And I realize most people, I wouldn't say maybe most, but a lot of people really don't realize that because they're not living in areas like that. I noticed that a lot, personally, I noticed that a lot of, quote, awakened people really have, don't really live in huge metropolitan regions of very dense population centers, such as New York and Philadelphia on the East Coast of the United States. And you see most of that population is completely caught up and identified in the illusion. They're not awake people. They're not awake and aware people. They have a pretty low level of consciousness. And, you could say that that's insulting, and so be it. It happens to be the truth. So it's very difficult for people who aren't from regions like that to really understand what the collective consciousness is like when you live amongst it, and how draining it is upon you and how depressing it becomes when you are in a sustained fashion, in a sustained way. You really start getting down on people in general, on humanity in general. And to recognize I certainly am and was going in that direction. I wanted to back off and take a little bit of time away from my main course of action, which is the What on Earth is Happening live weekly broadcast, because I don't feel it was really being that effective and not really helping people that much in changing their mindset. Maybe for some people did email me and say, thanks for really kicking me, and they asked the way you did. I had to hear it like that. But it's still relatively few that receive it that way. Some people really have to hear it in that very straightforward vitriolic approach, and then they're like, whoa, what have I been doing? But for the most part, what I really want to do is be more effective in reaching larger amounts of people to get them awakened and really reach the very high end, top of the line type of people that are going to be influencers themselves. That's really the goal. The goal is not so much to get the flotsam and jetsam. The goal is to get the real quality human beings that are going to take this to the next level, and they're going to jump in and do the great work themselves. So to that end, what I've been focusing on, one of the main reasons I put the show to the back burner is actually twofold. The first is to finish the natural law documentary that I've been working on called Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law. My video editor has been working pretty heavily to try to finalize that project as much as possible. I want to come in and make some final edits to it, and then we want to release that before the end of the year if possible. We're probably on track to do that. If it slips, if the release date slips, it shouldn't slip that far into next year, but we will be releasing it soon, shortly. Again, we're in the final editing stages. So that's the main big project that we've been working on here at What on Earth is Happening, is the natural law documentary. We have some original 3D art that's going into it. We have an original score that has been put into it. I did, a re-recording at very high quality of my dialogue, the script for the documentary, and the project looks great so far. It's really coming along nicely. So again, we're in the final stages of that. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to focus on finalizing that and getting it out there. And the next big thing, which I think is going to really impress a lot of people and really advance the work, is the One Great Work Network. I've been talking about this a little bit and hinting at it on my show, but that's what we're mainly here to kind of talk about today, and talk about how autonomy has been very involved in that. You guys have been helping me behind the scenes. But also to talk about how I am going to require some more assistance to make this kind of go off without a hitch. Right now, there's still a lot of technical assistance I could use help with. I've been staying up late nights, putting in late nights, working until all hours of the morning to get the technological behind the scenes stuff ready for something like this project. So let me just explain briefly what it is. I've been talking about putting together a collective of teachers, like a mystery school kind of, and I termed the project the One Great Work Network. So I was originally thinking we would launch small, and it would be like maybe 8 or 10 people, and we would put together a website where we'd have each have blogs, where we'd have whatever content we want to put out, video, audio, original articles, artwork, in whatever form of media we want to put on like individual pages that each content creator has. And then maybe we would do live streams and share our shows weekly at appointed times, and we would just call this the One Great Work Network. People who are doing the one great work of ending human slavery. We're just going to put an umbrella site together. We're going to put a collective website together where all of these people's work are featured and displayed to people, and people can check them all out individually and see how the great work is done, and hopefully it'll inspire other people to do the same. So that was the original idea, but we contacted some people who we're hoping to invite to the network, and the response has been just overwhelmingly positive and tremendous, where we now have over 40, I think it's now about 45 content creators that are on board with this project. So it has grown into something much larger than I originally even intended or foreseen it to be. And we are going to have a tremendous body of people that are quality individuals doing the great work themselves, putting out great content, often who have their own shows and live streams and huge bodies of work themselves, all coming together under this one website called the One Great Work Network, where we are going to have about 45 content creators, each with their own blog sites on the site, contained on the site. And then we're going to have a 24/7 live stream, a video live stream going 24/7, featuring all these content creators' work. It's going to be a continuous 24/7 truth-telling channel on the internet. And so far, it's been a tremendous body of work to put this together technologically and make it work, but it's going pretty smoothly. We've finally gotten enough help to do this. I actually envisioned this back in about 2016, and about 4 years ago, I didn't really have the help that I required to launch a project of this scope and scale. Now I do. And autonomy's been a big part of that. You guys have been tremendously helpful and actually like centering in this type of task, because if you don't have the actual assistance and help to do a technological project like this, it becomes overwhelming very quickly for one or two or three people. So we finally have like the resources in the form of a team, a volunteer effort that is really pushing this work forward and making it happen. And that's what doing the one great work is all about. It's not about just setting intentions or having good ideas or having a positive outlook or feel about something. It's about willpower and drive and getting it done and doing things, making them happen physically in the real world, and that's right action. That's what right action is all about. That's what converting knowledge into wisdom is all about, So that's a big running theme of the work about consciousness that I teach and that you guys teach in the Autonomy Network. So, that's the planned idea for the One Great Work Network. We have the site is actually up and running. We are bringing onboarding content creators with the help of people from Autonomy. We have training sessions underway so that they learn the technologies that they're going to use on the back end of the website. And it looks like a very, very ambitious project that is moving forward pretty steadily. And we hope to launch this before the end of this year. I'm not going to announce the exact intended date, but it's before January 1st, okay? We're going to do some promotion for that. This is part of it. This is just the initiatory stage of just talking about it. But we are on schedule as of right now to launch before January 1st, hopefully. That again, that may slip back a little bit, but not that much. Like I could confidently say this is going to be launched within the first quarter of 2021 at the latest, but we hope to even launch it before the end of this year. So the project, while it is ambitious, is on track, and we're really on schedule to launch again, as I said, before the end of this year.
And you've been teaching a class, a 23-week class in the middle of this. What's the name of the class and how's it going?
Yeah, it's a 23-week intensive technology seminar called How to Become the True Media. This is something I envisioned about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more than that, talking about like why aren't people doing the great work? Why aren't they reaching out to other people in a public way? Talking to your family, talking to friends, talking to acquaintances, that's one thing. And I'm not discouraging that. That should be done, of course, okay? But what I'm really talking about is why aren't more people publishing work? Why aren't they putting their ideas out in any kind of a formalized way for the whole world to see and to absorb and take into themselves? That's what really would move consciousness forward in a transformative way, in a positive and transformative way. And I, analyzed this situation on my own and thought about it and looked at all the dynamics involved and came to the inescapable conclusion that people in the modern world are just ignorant of publishing technologies. They just don't know modern publishing formats and technologies. And that means they don't know modern computers and how they work. They've been pushed into this model that the social engineers want us in of absorbing content with only a phone. That's where it went. It went from powerful desktop and laptop computers to here's a little slab device that you have very limited access and a very limited interface to interact with. And it really can't do the type of publishing and creative work that a full desktop, powerful desktop computer can do. They fear that tool, that powerful desktop computing publishing platform. They don't want that in people's hands. They want a consumer device that just puts people in reception mode, where all they're doing is going to a place where they're getting the information coming in this way. They don't want people publishing out to the world what they come to know. They fear that, the social engineers of our world. So what the How to Become the True Media seminar is it's putting my entire life experience of how to do this type of publishing work out there for others in a skill share. It's a skill share seminar for people to learn from my experience and my years of doing this, how to do it effectively and with best practices. And again, it's not for the people who are not committed to it. It's a 23-week, 3-hour a week plus then discussions after the formal training sessions of 3 hours, where that could go into the night. We generally have been leaving these sessions on for 2-3 hours after the these meetings running for 2-3 hours after the formal 3-hour teaching session, and people staying in, discussing techniques, discussing software, discussing teaching methods, etc. So it's a commitment. It's it's 1 day a week, but it's for 23 consecutive weeks, and it's running from, we started back in July, in early July, and it's going to run until mid-December of this year. So that's the How to Become the True Media seminar, and we're probably going to continue this. And I'm debating whether it's going to be a 6-month on, 6-month off, or maybe we'll rotate and it'll be a 6-month on and then 1 year off and then 6 months back on. I'm debating what the frequency is going to be, but it possibly may be a every 6-month type seminar, or we may take a 1 year break in between the classes. So we'll see how that works out according to my schedule, but it will be a 6-month seminar, usually about a 23-week seminar. And that's only scratching the very tip of the surface here. That's putting the minimalistic tool set in the hands of people as an introduction of the type of technology skill sets that will be needed to do this. And so far, it's going really, really well. And I think the students have been getting a lot of good instruction and a lot of good experiences. From what I'm hearing, the questions that come back to me are really good questions that people who are really trying to understand how a lot of this publishing technology works would ask. That's my gauge of how successful and moving forward the students have been in the seminar so far. So I think they're really picking up a lot of good skill sets and experience, and I think they're going to bring that into their projects and their endeavors as they move forward doing the great work.
So it's even more exciting than you just working on one project, because you really got 3. You talked about 2, then I had to bring in that 3rd because you're so busy you forgot.
Right.
I
And
think
if you
your
add what on
audience,
earth is happening into that, it's 4 simultaneous projects going. Don't think that has just stopped. I mean, I'm still going to be preparing presentations and seminars, to give either locally here or, in other places. And, it's like 4 simultaneous projects going at the same time. The thing is one of them has to take a temporary back burner. And right now that's what on earth is happening, because I'm working on the documentary, the seminar, the technology seminar, How to Become the True Media. And of course, behind the scenes, we've been putting together all the technology that's going to run the One Great Work Network and onboarding 45 content creators. So people don't see that. They are like, oh, Mark, you're not on the air every week. What have you been doing? Why aren't you doing anything? And it's like, you don't know how much I've been doing behind the scenes. It's a nonstop effort. I'm up till 7 in the morning some nights. I go to bed in the morning, staying up all night working on the technology behind the scenes for these projects. So it's like, just because you don't see it publicly doesn't mean I'm inactive.
Yeah, and I think it was really kind of perfect timing. I know it was like frustrating for the past year or so while you've been asking for help, but as far as like last summer, I remember I was mowing the grass, I was listening to your show, and I heard you asking for help, and I was like, I don't think we're there yet, because autonomy at that point was just training people and getting graduates. But by the beginning of this year, we started up the consulting arm, and then a couple months into that, we heard you again. It was Tyler Bloyer who's on this call, and Tyler was at the second event that I filmed for you here in Hartford, like 2015 or 2013.
Yes.
And so he had graduated through the course. He said, hey, listen to this clip from Mark. And so me and Joshua and Tyler, we all, talked about it. And then, I was like, reach out, let's see if we can get a meeting together, because we didn't want to see you burn out. We saw that you needed a heat sink. You were encountering too much energy for one human being to kind of directly interact with all at once. And it's like, if we could take some of those technical issues and the publishing and the distribution and allow you to focus on the highest and best value of your time, which is continuing to develop your presentations. That was really our goal. And so Tyler and Joshua were able to help put a plan together, and we started asking you questions to learn about your process. You got a process, dude. You definitely have a reason why you're doing these things a different way. And it was fun for us to kind of take that challenge and learn about how to level up our understanding of that type of production facility that you've built up there. And what were some of the biggest challenges that you were looking to get off your table so that you could focus on these other projects?
Well, first of all, you guys have been tremendously helpful. And Richard, thank you for putting together Autonomy in the way that you have. It's a great organization, and you got some really conscious and competent people there. And Tyler and Joshua, thank you for your efforts. It's been tremendously helpful. Joshua, you've been like a coordinator behind the scenes with Autonomy and really helping to facilitate the workflow. And Tyler, you've been like attacking any technological things that we've needed assistance with, like a pit bull. I mean, it's tremendous, the work that you've done. Tyler's really helping me with uploading my content to library as well, helping or reorganize links on my website. I'm going to move forward with helping with the uploads of my podcast for future shows, and is working behind the scenes to make video podcasts out of my earlier audio podcasts. So a lot that you're doing there behind the scenes, Tyler. I thank you for your assistance. What I personally, have gotten a lot of help with is just, general workflow with content that has already been produced. And, with a newsletter, Kara has been of tremendous help with, putting the newsletter out, which we weren't doing a newsletter because we couldn't get to it. We couldn't literally get to that task. So you guys have been helping with direct outreach as well. The one thing that I still have a little bit of a need and a lack that I haven't been able to achieve is technical help in-house. When you realize I'm in a very small place with a lot of technological equipment here, a lot of things functioning in a very just so way that is just set up and it's delicate, and things can break and go wrong very easily. And that takes me immediately off my workflow. If there's a technological problem, it takes me off of the goal of the work that I want to accomplish for the week, because I have to stop and it's got to be fixed, because if that's not working, then the workflow doesn't flow and it doesn't work. So, if I could get technological help in-house from somebody who is like a technological troubleshooter such as myself, it would be an unbelievably valuable method of assistance for me, because being the only technical troubleshooter, when there's a technical issue, I have to stop what I am doing and then go and troubleshoot the issue until it's fixed. So, we may have a budget for that. I'm working to find the resources to actually get someone at that as some type of a paid position, whether it's comparable to some type of a salary in that field. More likely than not, it may not be, but we're going to try to work it so that it doesn't just have to be a volunteer effort. If someone could approach it as a volunteer effort, that would be the optimal case, but we probably have at least some resources that we could put toward a technical assistant in-house. But it would have to be in-house. It is not something that can be done remotely. This is something people ask all the time. When a printer breaks or a network cable is frayed, you cannot fix that remotely. It has to be, I need technical assistance in-house, in person, here in my office in Philadelphia, my home office in Philadelphia. So it cannot be done remotely. That is the very first thing. It does not matter how much your intentions are set to want to help us or get us help. If you are not local, there is no point in saying that you want to come and help, because we need a local person. That has to be understood, and it can only be a local person, just so that is understood clearly.
So you imagine if you encounter a tech issue during the week, it takes longer than 5 minutes, you file a ticket, your person comes over, they don't have to sit there at your house waiting for things to break, right? Or they could have a regularly scheduled appointment and also stop by when things break. Right?
I look at it like a 2 or 3 day a week that, part-time, that someone would just come and, I could give them a list of things that needed to be done. And if there's a problem, then they could assist me during that time, so I don't have to stop my workflow. Because right now I could have 3 to 4 times the amount of work put out if I didn't have to deal with the technical issues that I do. And that's a conservative estimate. I would at least, I'm probably working at 25% capacity of what I could be putting out as far as information is concerned, compared to what I'm doing, because I have to stop my workflow and address technological issues.
Aside from needing the local tech help, what's your other big hiccups or obstacles in the way right now?
I would say that's the main thing. I would say people just understanding that, technology plays an important role in putting the work out. And I think that's still not, a lot of people have not made that connection. They're still in this idea that we're going to talk to our next door neighbors and get the word out. And that's not how this works. We have this incredible opportunity before us called the internet. And what the great work is and involves is putting your work publicly in an immortal fashion. And I use that word not lightly. When you put something on the internet, if you do it the right way, it's immortalized. People can download it. They can back it up. They can save it to other platforms and other forms of media, and it never dies. It will be there forever. It is immortalized. It will live on long after you die. People don't understand that yet. They haven't made that fundamental, psychological connection that this is how information is immortalized. They're hung up on, I don't need to know all that tech stuff, and I'm just going to talk to the person I see on the street. And then that conversation's over and done with. That person may or may not receive it, and then those words are gone and they don't live on. When you put something publicly onto the internet in a formalized way where you have thought about it, you have refined your way of speaking and delivering the content and the message, and you're putting it out there in a way that will basically live forever once it hits the internet and people download it, that is infinitely more powerful than just saying a few words to somebody who may or may not be fertile ground for those words. So we need to completely shift the paradigm of how we think about information transference and reception. And that process is not really too far along. Most people haven't made that fundamental recognition and awareness mentally yet, let alone are they learning the skill sets to do it. Okay, so that's where I think, I could say in general, all of us could use more help in that, field of endeavor, with people just making that fundamental recognition and then onboarding themselves into the process of learning those publishing technologies. This is the new reading and writing, folks. That's how serious it is. If you don't know how to do it, you're literally illiterate. And I'm not saying that metaphorically. This is the new competency and literacy. It is like in the old world, just learning how to read and write. And that's how they preserved it. They wrote things down and they created books, etc. This is the new form of that, except we have even more powerful tools at our disposal, multimedia tools, powerful publishing platforms, ways of reaching people all around the entire world, not just in our local area. We cannot squander that opportunity. It has to be put to use, that technology. We cannot be afraid of it. We have to jump in there, learn the tools, and then use them.
I think it's also, we can't be afraid of learning things anew and going through that ambiguity, because any of these new technical things that you throw at people in class, there's a learning curve. There's a point of ambiguity. It's just like riding a bike. You're not just riding it. There's a point where you fall down and you got to get up. That's and right. You got to persist and you got to do this. And to be able to pick up these knowledge molecules or components to put things together for the future in a way that is indelible. It, could be IPFS, it could be flash drives. There's a whole bunch of ways to get truthful information about now into the future. And it gives people a better map. That's why I bought these books behind me. These people emboldened my mentality through compacting and compartmentalizing and distilling this work into something useful that I could read during my lifetime. Tells me about the past, helps me understand where humanity has come from and where we are, so I can see where we're going. So those types of investments of time, energy, attention into something that can be taken into the future and show, here's a factual and actual, slice of what happened in the past. That's useful in teaching people how to do it. It not only says, oh, if I have music inside me, I can get it out metaphorically. It also says, if you know how to support the process of people doing that, that's a useful skill you can get paid for. That's right. And you can add value to the world in an indirect way, which a lot of people are more comfortable with anyway. So it's not a pressure that you have to become a personal media platform hero, but you should at least know how that works and be able to support those who are doing it so that we can all have freedom in the future.
Exactly. There's many different roles that people can play, and like you guys behind the scenes of what on earth is happening in One Great Work Network are helping to support that effort. Other people can learn those skill sets and workflows of how that works behind the scenes and get involved in a project. You could go and help support other content creators. That's part of what the One Great Work Network is about. It's highlighting other content creators' work in addition to mine. So it's not just like me feeling like, oh, I'm doing this all by myself. It's like, hey, all these other people are also doing the one great work, and we want to get them resources. We want to get them help. We don't want them doing it on their own and get going into the same level of frustration that I have often encountered. That's what this is all about. It's showing there may be content creators that are very, very powerful in their message in your very area, and you might want to get involved with them and help support their effort. So that's what will help this to grow in an outward capacity and get more people onboarded in either the direct process of putting that information out, or as you said, the indirect process of still doing that one great work, but through a supportive capacity.
Yeah, and let's set some expectations. I want to bring in Joshua Hale and Tyler Bloyer because as instrumental tech nerds who are able from the autonomy consulting side come in and interact with you, Mark, and kind of find out about your process. I want to ask them, what were some of the biggest challenges or learning curves in working with a client like Mark?
Mark, it was a huge pleasure to finally get to meet you face to face for one, but then to be able to answer that call. It hurt my heart to see you getting so bogged down. It was like a guy going for the touchdown with 10 guys on his back, still pushing through. And it was, yeah, we all knew we wanted to reach out. You were very adamant about just getting in-house help, and we were like, all right, we're gonna attempt to see if we can lighten that load because as you've already demonstrated, you have so many different things going on. So for us to be able to make contact, to be able to figure out what is it that we can support you with, the newsletter got that flowing, and then Tyler was able to start helping out with media from afar, and then to see all these projects start being able to shift from being stuck into moving forward, and it's just amazing to watch momentum grow with projects. It's like a huge boulder that it takes tremendous amount of force to get going, but once it starts moving, and then you got to chase it and keep up with it. But it's just been really awesome to see these things get unstuck and now start moving forward.
Yeah, and I would consider myself, to toot my own horn a little bit, somewhat of a success story from following both of you guys' work for years, to not really having a skill set that could assist in any real way at all, to making memes, to going, hey, I could take this further, to becoming a little bit more creative with the computer rather than just using it as a pure source for income in one field only, but recognizing what Mark was saying about how powerful of a creative tool it is. And what I really like about this conversation as well is you each have, Mark and Richard, have solutions to back up what you're saying here. We're not just coming on and complaining about people not doing work and why aren't more people publishing, but each of you have massive amounts of knowledge, bodies of knowledge that are archived properly, like Mark was saying, that are out there for people to consume, like the True Media course or the Autonomy course is what I'm specifically referring to here. And I've been lucky enough to I'm in the middle of the True Media course now and gone through Autonomy several seasons now, and been picking up what you guys have been laying down about that assistance that's really needed, and not necessarily that I have to be some spotlight figure with my own tremendous show, but hey, how can I pick up those things Mark's talking about remotely if I'm not in Philadelphia? And by the way, you didn't really sell going to Philadelphia to help you in the beginning of the show, Mark, when you started out talking about how it is there. But for people that are already there, I guess they can definitely come help, but someone could also relocate there. And now there's these positive feedback loops with Autonomy and the True Media course kind of coming together to provide that technical support. Out of the True Media course, I'm seeing people creating their own shows already and getting their artwork together. And it looks like, we'll have at least 4 or 5, I would say, podcasts coming out of just that season 1 class. So, if you were to do a 6-month on, 6-month off thing or continue on with teaching people, you could just imagine the type of, because sometimes it takes that next step for you to get the more knowledge on how to do it before you actually get in gear and do it. And the other thing I think that's helped with that is 2020 and all the events that have gone on this year. I think it has helped get people that were on the fence into motion, into action. They're like, oh my God, the house is on fire even more so than before. What can I do about it? And I think that's also why we're all seeing this kind of convergence of Mark's work and the stuff Richard's working on, and all the support all of a sudden just showing up, even though you have been, kind of beating that stick for a while to get the support. But I don't know if that's just my perspective, but this year seems like people are actually starting to engage more on whatever way they can help. And if that's, you have zero technical knowledge, well, there's lots of pathways now that we have here as a group that people could reach out and get that knowledge, the information they need to actually assist or maybe do their own work in regards to what we're talking about here.
I think that's a highly accurate assessment, Tyler. I fully agree with what you said. And yes, while I didn't sell Philadelphia as a magical positive city, I think we have to take this notion that we shouldn't run from problems and we shouldn't run from areas. I think people should really kind of not abandon places just because they're heading in the wrong direction. That calls even more for good people to stay and help improve their local area where they are at. That's why I don't intend on leaving Philadelphia. This has a historical significance, this place. And more than that, I think that when good people up and leave and just leave a place to deteriorate, that's not helping anything. I think we need to stand our ground and push forward and bring our true principles to other people so that things don't deteriorate and degenerate. So that I think should be an encouraging factor of maybe having someone come here to help out and be an assistant in this process. But if that comes, it comes, and we are putting out that intention, and we'll see what happens. But I want to just go back to what you were saying about you not having the technological skills at first. A lot of people don't, and that discourages them. Because is it a lot? It is. I'm not going to lie, it's a lot to learn. Okay, and there is a learning curve involved. But that's what things like my True Media seminar, Richard's Autonomy seminar and classes. This is what it is all about. It is a stepwise progression. You don't have to learn it all at once. I didn't learn it all at once. Richard didn't learn it all at once. Tyler and Joshua didn't learn it all at once. You take it a little at a time, and you build on your existing skill sets and experiences, and then you get better as you go. It's like anything else that you do. It's an art form. Okay, martial arts is an art form. Bruce Lee, when he first started learning martial arts, wasn't the master that he became at it. To master anything takes time. It takes persistence. It takes patience. It takes keep doing it. It takes making mistakes and learning from the mistakes. All of those things are things that need to be put into practice in our lives. This is part of persistence in doing the work. Okay, you can't just say, well, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to get involved, or oh, that's hard, so I don't want to start. That never gets the ball rolling. Okay, as everybody's been saying, it's like inertia. If you're not doing it, yes, it's hard to get it started, but once it gets started, you get momentum going, and then it becomes easier as you go. And that's what learning technology is like. So make a decision mentally, put your intention forward to get involved in the process in some way, in some shape or form. Once you do that, the knowledge will come, and it will snowball. It will build upon itself, and it will become easier as you do it.
Well, it's about consistency. And you were talking about persistence. And what I wrote down is when you were giving those excuses, I'm like, that excuse is exactly why you should do it. It's not an excuse not to do it. It's because it is hard. It's because you would challenge yourself. It's because you're going to trigger your own complexity. That's the only time you're growing or learning.
That's right.
So for 2020, some people have met the challenge with a smile and a plan of action and the resourcefulness to get her done. And we've all grown this year, but other people have met it with fear and withering and shrinking and like subjugation to things that are not true. So there is action this year, whether we wanted it or not. There's action going on, and it's how we thoughtfully respond to it and grow through it, or we're going to react to it. And that reaction is going to be fear driven, and it's going to be the race to the bottom of the brainstem for sure. So knowing that, we can race to the top and go to the prefrontal cortex and start asking questions, finding out answers, working with other people, communicating, solving these little tech problems that hold us back, and make a brighter future for freedom.
Without a doubt. I could say personally, 2020 was one of the worst and most challenging years of my life. I dealt with tremendous personal loss in the form of Barb's death in early 2020. And then, the whole pandemic, nonsense and lockdowns and destruction of human freedom that came with that. But at the same time, moving toward the end of the year, there is a tremendous breakthrough about to happen. And I can guarantee huge things are coming at the end of this year for not only what on earth is happening in autonomy, but when we come out with the One Great Network, it's going to be sort of a paradigm shifting, event. And the documentary coming out early next year is also going to be a big breakthrough when we put that out formally for people who have not heard about natural law and don't know what it is. We're going to put that out, and it's going to be a formal teaching for them in a way that they can sit and watch in under an hour and a half and learn something that they've never learned before. 2021 is going to bring some really breakthrough stuff. I can personally guarantee it.
All right. So as far as moving forward, people want to know when your podcast is going to reinitiate. Do you have an answer for them?
I don't have I don't have an official date on that. I am gearing toward early next year, but I'm going to say before June of next year, I will be back on the air. If it's a little bit sooner than that, we'll see, but I have to get these other projects launched and in really good shape first. Once that happens, then I will refocus on the podcast again. I'm going to say I will shoot for June of 2021.
Excellent. And then between now and then, you need more help. You need more people who know what they're doing. So trained people who have skills that can, alleviate some of these things on your desk,
Yes.
just like we've been doing for the past year. We also need more apprentices and interns who are graduates of the autonomy program so that they can help out at the consulting arm and freelance on projects like yours. So as we're all doing what we're doing, I think it's coming together. And for people who are just waiting around for you to do a podcast, yeah, you're going to have to wait because everyone else is taking action right now and doing things. And this is Mark's invitation for you to take action as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I had 1 to 2 well-trained and knowledgeable technical assistants in-house, it would really help me out in getting to more creative work. And that means being a good desktop troubleshooter for all platforms, whether it be Mac, Windows, or Linux. I don't generally use Linux in-house. I use Mac and Windows pretty extensively. So people would definitely have to know how to troubleshoot those systems. Any web technology understanding would be a huge plus, especially in the realm of content management systems. Any programming languages for the web, such as JavaScript, PHP, SQL, etc., things like that. That would be a huge plus. But generally what I'm looking for is in-house technical troubleshooting. When there's problems with software or hardware, they need to be solved before my workflow can continue. So if I had 1 or 2 part-time people a week, it would be an unbelievable source of help for moving my work forward. And if you do want to do that, you can go onto the What on Earth is Happening website and hit the Help tab, and that will show you, that will give you contact info on the Help tab.
What about if they just had the skill set to maybe come in and clone a hard drive? Would that be something you'd want in-house help with too? Is with the ARC too?
I mean, it would help minimally. I'm generally handling that workload. It's not a big deal. Like I get 2 to 3 of those every single day. Sometimes 5 or 6 show up. But in general, that's not a huge problem for me to keep up with. It hasn't become one yet anyway. That would help a little bit, but nothing would help more than someone who really, really knows their stuff when it comes to troubleshooting problems on computers when they arise. If a printer stops working, you know how to go through all the tech diagnostics of what might be wrong. If you have to reinstall a driver, if a hard drive's not working, how to troubleshoot that. If a computer's not working, if software, if a setting has to be wiped out and reset, all of these things and many more. But that's the main thing is I need a good, solid technological troubleshooter in-house that really knows their stuff so that they will be able to solve problems and not create additional problems. That's the other thing. They have to be very competent.
Well, and they might be able to get a free smoothie every now and then for lunch, right?
They'll definitely get free smoothies. No doubt about it. My smoothies are badass.
Yeah, they look good. On the ARC 2, can you just give a highlight of something that might be on the ARC 2 that wasn't on the ARC 1? You don't have to go into everything, but maybe
Oh
some
yeah,
highlights.
there's a lot more esoteric information in the form of videos and books. I've added a lot of ebooks to this incarnation of the ARC, actual EPUB books instead of just PDFs. I've added a lot of information on the pandemic hoax. There's a whole lot more videos on the ARC. I think I've doubled the amount of videos that are actually on there. There's over 3,000 videos, and there's about 9,500 books. There was only about maybe 6,500 to 7,000 before, so I've added thousands of books. Audio is probably the lightest area. In addition, I probably added maybe 1,000 more audio files, but in general, the amount of content as a whole has grown significantly on that. And again, it's double the actual amount of information on drive than it was. It's a 2 terabyte drive instead of a 1. So, people have been really taking me up on the offer. I've been nonstop making ARC2 drives constantly since the offer was put publicly, which is an encouraging sign. And I think that is a sign that, this whole pandemic nonsense, really put some people, kicked them in the butt and put them into high gear with saying, hey, I got to learn a lot of this stuff. I got to learn what's really going on because the world is not as I thought it was. That's definitely happening.
Yeah, we've gotten
I
to
just
learn
like
a
to-
lot about the non-freedom agenda in the past 6 months, for sure.
Absolutely. And I hope that continues. It's an encouraging sign that so many people want the ARC. That is definitely an encouraging sign. So I'm glad that people are taking me up on the offer and doing it.
Joshua and or Tyler, anything else we left on the table for this discussion that I forgot to ask about?
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about like the course you created for your onboarding process for your content creators on the One Great Network.
Yeah, Autonomy has helped us with onboarding us with Kajabi, which is sort of a business platform for training individuals through I guess you could say tutorial courses. And Leah and Tyler and Deirdre and others have put together Kajabi training courses where we are putting articles and videos together to help train the content creators in some of the back-end technologies that they are going to use for the creation of their content, such as a content management system for a website, or such as video streaming software, video editing software, etc. Just to help them with the back-end tasks that they have to do to prepare media. Some people may be more knowledgeable or technologically inclined than others, but we're basically approaching it from a baseline perspective of, we're going to show everybody basic tutorials about how this works so that they can do the very basics to upload content or publish content. And then for those who want to go further, we can give them more assistance with some more technical things that, put them a little bit more deep into the process, and they could do a little bit more, like, for example, an NDI workflow, which is like kind of what we use here for the What on Earth is Happening show, which is a video over LAN process. So, it could be as simple as they want it to be. It could be as complex and technical as they want it to be. We'll accommodate all, knowledge bases as far as that is concerned. But, Kajabi has been a good resource in helping to onboard our people who are going to be content creators for the network. And that's what we've been using with Autonomy's assistance, which has been great.
How have you been liking the process of making tutorials, putting them up, and then everybody can just go through that without the need to bog down your time?
I think it's fantastic. From everything I've seen about the whole process, it's really a system that is really built well, and nothing is left to chance. It's like very well programmed, I would say, and that's high praise coming from me. I'm very picky about things like that and about interfaces and how things are programmed. From what I can tell, Kajabi is set up very well and is very geared toward giving people a very simple, course follow through that they can do and say, okay, I've completed this level of the course. I have that level of understanding, and then move on to the next aspect of it. So I think it's very logically organized and programmed very well to enable us to put those tutorials together.
Yeah, we were using a platform called Teachable for the first 2 seasons of Autonomy, and then Joshua brought the the Kajabi, and I was like, that's a weird word. And it took me a couple times to kind of warm up to it, but it has so much more feature functionality and it's so much more prosperous for an entrepreneur. Easy to use, easy to offer the training and the knowledge that's really valuable to people. And so now we're partners with Kajabi. We've got a bunch of licenses. We've set up other clients with it other than yourself. We've helped Derek Bros and Benny Wills create courses recently that are also hosted on Kajabi. So yeah, it's a really strong component on which we can hang a lot of value for clients. That's basically.
I fully agree. I've been impressed with it thus far.
The interface of Kajabi, I think, is, one abstraction, but if you look at the University of Reason, I mean, we moved it this year from one platform to the other, and so I got to watch all the data kind of go across, right, and see what we've packed in there over the last 3 seasons. And I've made a lot of effort to back stuff up locally, because I'm looking at this kind of like, the same as the A.R.K or the One Great Work Network. These are new information sources that we can then bundle in whatever form. So whether it's Kajabi or whatever, cloud storage device that's serving the data. But, I had a question for you, Richard, with the University of Reason that came up in our breakout session the other day. And it was kind of like the long-term goal and plans. And I said, I'm not sure if that's all really formalized, but I do see the University of Reason being a long-term thing that might, autonomy may be a central thing there. And then we have maybe a natural law course, hint, that we might, be able to get out of Mark one day. And there could be a lot of other things in that university. What is your long-term vision, Rich, with how that will unfold or outlast you even maybe?
Yeah, the long-term vision of University of Reason is that it's a storehouse for information that helps people preserve freedom. So they attain, maintain, and retain freedom with the knowledge, and they can keep slavery at bay. So it's reason-based, objective things that exist, and the law of identification and personal property and these things that flow from it, called our rights. They have a legitimate hierarchical, dynamic formulation that's left out of our schooling on purpose, so we don't know what's going on. So by putting those pieces back in place, that you can actually use your common sense, which is the 5 senses we commonly share, to identify something in reality and exchange meaningful data about that in order to make better decisions and to be able to plan for the future and attain, maintain, retain freedom. So it's a long-term vision.
We'll see if that satisfied Ludvio's question. He's pretty hard pressing with those questions. But yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. Another thing from my perspective, going back to watching the data flow is like watching the students come in through autonomy, and we ask them, what are your hopes and dreams? And they say, well, I want to live in accordance with my principles and my morals. And that's really surprising and shocking when somebody says that to you when you ask them what their goals and dreams are. And then, oh, okay, you came from Passio's crowd. That makes a lot of sense. And what's another goal of yours? Well, I really want to help Mark Passio. Okay, and then 2 weeks later, I'm meeting with them and Mark, getting them hooked up and plugged in where they can actually do that. And that's been really amazing to see, because I've been really just kind of the guy that walked over and saw a plug that needed to be plugged in and went ahead and plugged it in. And then it's like, boom, and it's like this huge current is going through it now. And so to be involved with that is pretty interesting too, because there's questions of people, they want to know, how am I going to make a living if I have all these, problems with the conundrums of the Federal Reserve System, and, having living in right livelihood is one of the things I wrote down once a long time ago when Mark said he was talking about right livelihood. And I said, I have that goal. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, though. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to happen. But there's also proven methods now that we're showing where there's a value for value exchange in some cases here that are happening, where Mark doesn't necessarily have to exchange Federal Reserve notes with the people that he's working with, and they're getting value and he's getting value. And so, there's a lot of unanswered things there for people to still figure out exactly how they're going to go about and proceed. But I've seen personally examples of that from the two of you guys in setting up scenarios where that's even possible. And I think that's another part of Mark's work that people miss, is how he's able to do that through the website. And maybe that's a topic he'd want to go into or not now. I'm not sure.
I think that's definitely something that we should address, because we've fallen into this cul-de-sac of social media and YouTube as main content, hosters, and that is just something that is very sinister. And we're seeing how people are being deplatformed for virtually nothing, just because they don't like what people are saying. It's like a telephone company saying, we don't like your conversation, so we're going to cut your telephone service off. That's what big tech has become in the modern world. We have to go back to creating our own platforms where we're basically controlling that platform, and people cannot just cut off our service because they don't like what we're saying. That's what Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all these other big tech companies have become. They become censors. They become like literally communist style censors. And it's a very, very, very dangerous road that we're heading down regarding that. And it's criminal and treasonous. I say that word a second time I bring it up. But again, I don't mean that in the sense of just treasonous to a country. It's treasonous to human rights. It's treasonous to humanity. They are traitors to human beings in general. And I don't think anything could be said in a more serious tone or fashion than you are traitors to humanity. That's what big tech has become because of their censorship efforts. And I don't care who they're censoring. I don't care if they're censoring left, right, center, or other. Okay, if you can't have freedom of speech and a discussion and have people put out their ideas, and you don't believe in freedom of speech, you're the enemy of humanity, as far as I'm concerned, not the enemy of any particular country. Okay, so that's how big they're treasonous traitors. But in order to combat that, we have to start getting back to the old school internet paradigm of making websites, learning how to publish and do it in a distributed fashion. Facebook and Twitter are not distributed platforms. They are centralized platforms controlled by one board of directors, okay, in each respective company. That's not decentralization. That's about as centralization of power as it gets. And a few people make decisions about what millions of people are allowed to publish. It's just a bad road to go down in general, technologically, not even just socially. It's a bad road to go down even from a technological standpoint. That's why we have to start learning distributed network technologies. We have to start learning publishing on our own platforms, making our own websites with content management systems so that we can manage large amounts of data. Okay, most people don't even know what that means or how to do it. They haven't looked into it for 1 second of their lives. And this is what I'm likening to modern illiteracy. That's how serious not knowing how to do that stuff is. Okay, so again, it's not meant to discourage people who haven't done it so far. It's meant to inspire them. Get on board with this. You could become a powerful content creator yourself, or if you learn the technologies, you can assist with other powerful content creators in their work. And that's what the great work is. You don't have, and not one person has to do it all themselves. Everybody should get help if they're doing the one great work of helping to bring about true human freedom on this planet for everyone.
I almost wanted to say amen, but I forgot what meeting I was in.
Let's get back to building websites like we did at the early days of the internet and making distributed platforms and supporting distributed platforms so nobody can censor it. That's why I personally like the way that library is going. Hopefully they'll stay on that path. I see no indication that they will not. I like things like IPFS. I think things like that are going to be the future of the distributed internet without any question.
And so the opportunity really is, if you learn how to interact with this technology in a useful way that emboldens freedom, you'll be doing something both meaningful and substantial, but you'll also have a skill set that people who have revenue coming in from those activities can afford to pay for. There are people out there with personal media platforms on Facebook and YouTube that know they're going to go bye-bye like the dodo bird soon. So they need a personal media platform that they own. They need a website, they need graphics, they need copywriting, they need a call to action, they need some sort of offer to be able to stay in business, whether it's support me with $10 a week or whatever your system is, or you have a product or service and you have to make a call to action. You have to offer it to market in a compelling way. So if people don't learn how to do these entrepreneurial aspects now, I know that they're not going to be able to do them in the future, because you can't do it under a communist or socialist, totalitarian, despotic regime. Because I've read those history books. I have them here. Gulag Archipelago. Not a whole lot of entrepreneurism going on. under that type of level of minutial control. And that's what they have today, to the nth degree, that type of control over people. They're in electronic gulags too.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. So, these skill sets, if you get them under your belt, they'll carry you and your experiences into the future, and you will become sought after. You'll become someone that can really, again, market their skills into the future. And that's what, autonomy is all about. And then again, learning that will also help you get more involved in an indirect fashion in the great work by helping other people who are content creators. And that's what this whole collaboration that What on Earth is Happening and Autonomy have put together is assisting in that process. And it's been going really well. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, again for being willing to assist with that and make yourselves available for it, because it's been an invaluable contribution to What on Earth is Happening and the great work in general.
It's been their pleasure. No, I'll let them speak for themselves. We enjoy the call with you every week. That's for sure. And all the work in between.
It is a highlight. And I just want to say publicly, Mark, it's because of you that I found Richard's work, because of
awesome.
Natural Law, and finding out who helped put that together. And so
it's great.
Really wonderful to give back to the people that have so tremendously influenced my life and got me to where I am today.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll just say that people can sign up for Mark's newsletter, and since Autonomy, I think that was mentioned here, is helping to produce that for him, you can get updates from what Mark's been up to, as well as sometimes maybe a little thing that's going on with Autonomy Unlimited, and that would be a good way to showcase the relationship. And so, last one I got was back in 2017, and I was trying to find an example to show our copywriter team, and I'm like, it couldn't have been that long ago, that they must have gotten one out. And so it feels good to know that gap has been closed. Like, there are things that were laying on your desk that you needed to get to, that now we're able to come in and take those items off your plate. And so I'm just happy to be a part of that, and I'm happy that you gentlemen have created pathways to help people help you, because that's another thing that Richard mentioned. Like, I emailed him maybe 7 years ago, and I probably shotgunned out 20 skills that I had and hoped that he saw it and hoped that it. So there was a thing on both sides there where I didn't quite have an offer that was digestible, and Richard didn't quite have an onboarding process to go, oh yeah, let me put this guy to work. Let me get him on a WebEx, or Zoom, I guess is what we're using nowadays. Maybe back then it was WebEx or Skype. And same with you, Mark. There was a time where you probably could have done a better job at giving people an onboarding way to get to you. And your expectation was here, and their expectations were down. Now that they're more aligned, you can see that it's working. So I'm just really just kind of following a path that's been laid down. And I don't negate my own responsibility in that. I think there's a lot of things that I've done too, but thank you to both of you gentlemen, and it's a pleasure having this roundtable with you.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I think that's a fantastic place to leave it, and I want to thank you for bringing me on board for a great discussion today.
I love it when a puzzle comes together. Thank you guys all for taking time out of your week, and Mark, have a productive day. Joshua and Tyler, I'll talk to you later in the next meeting.
You guys as well. Take care.
Cool. Peace.
Have you found that your skills aren't matching up with the challenges ahead? Here are 19 essential skills for success that school never taught you. Get your free copy by following the link below or visit getautonomy.info/19skills.